This video is going to show you how to create the cornhole board and charging cube, the dust found on worksheet 1 regarding extrusions. So the first thing we're going to do is look at the dimensions of a cornhole board. You have already created this in a document that we did for sketching. So here's the sketch that you had created. So the first thing we want to do is just extrude this top piece. As of now, it's just a 2D sketch. So I'm simply going to hit the extrude, and I will pick this exterior area, so not, I guess I didn't pick there. Oh, there we go. And I'm going to assume we're going to use, let's say 3/4 inch plywood. So I'll type in 3/4 inch. And I guess it doesn't like the inch sign. So there we go. Now it's 3/4 of an inch. And typically what happens in a cornhole board is you border it around the outside with, say, a 2x4 or something similar. Let's go back to on shape, and I'm going to draw that on the bottom side of our cornhole top. The first thing I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to use this command here, called use. So this allows me to use existing edges on my sketch. So since we want our wood to line up with that outside sketch, I'm going to simply do this. And now I have the outside drawn. I want to use what's called the offset tool. And what the offset tool is, it allows you to create a sketch inside of a certain feature, all a certain distance away. You'll see what I mean in a moment. There we go. So if you look, I can offset it to the outside, I can offset it to the inside, and I can tell it how thick to make it. So let's assume it's just 1 inch. Sorry, I keep using the inch sign. So instead of a 2x4, maybe we'll use like a 5/4 board, if you know what that is. And I'm going to now extrude this. And let's say I'm going to extrude it 3.5. I'm sort of mixing units here, but that's typically the width of a 2x4 board. And there we go. Now you can see it looks similar. Now they're not separated into distinct pieces like they would be if we were making this out of wood, but let's just go with it for now so you see how to do the extrusions. You can even rename these, so I can rename this to top board. I can rename this to sides. And now we just need to draw the feet. So if you look at this, the feet typically, they're rounded at the top so that you can collapse them. We're not going to do that right now. We're just going to extrude them as straight squares. So let's make them 2x4s. Oops, sorry, wrong screen. So again, I'm going to come onto this bottom surface, and I'm going to draw a sketch. I'm going to hit the N key so that it goes normal to my sketch. And I'm going to draw a rectangle. Not quite in the corner. Well, let's just put it in the corner. And that's not dimensioned, as you can see. So a 2x4 is actually 1.5 by 3.5. And there is our 2x4 in the corner. Now I haven't extruded yet, it's just a sketch. So what I need to do is now just, actually let's just draw both of these while we're at it. Both 2x4. So instead of drawing both of them, I'm going to draw a construction line right down the middle. Let's just put it in the middle of our circle, that way we know it's straight. Then I'm going to mirror. So it says select a mirror line. So a mirror tool reflects whatever it is you want to sketch on the other side right around a mirror line. So if you watch, if I pick this line, it's going to show up over there and be the mirror image on the other side of our mirror line, where our mirror line is this yellow line that I chose. So now I'm going to finally extrude these legs. And I'm actually going to turn these into a new part. And that means that it would be like the 2x4 is not perfectly made out of this other wood. It's separate wood. And it automatically picked the two surfaces of my 2x4 sketches that I had there. And I happen to know this needs to be 10.25 inches to be about right for a cornhole board. And now you can see we have the two legs of the cornhole board. if you really wanted to make the sides look like it also was a distinct part, you could come back in and edit the sides and say new. And now that will be a separate piece as well. So now you can see that it's looking a little bit more realistic and that these are separate pieces of wood. If we really wanted to do it right, we would have separated these into 4 separate pieces of wood. But that basically creates your cornhole board. I don't like the orientation that view's giving me, but when you want to turn in or snip this image, make sure you give an image so that I can see that you have both legs there. You know, maybe something like that where I can see the second leg coming through, and you'll want to snip your view over here along with your name there. All right, that's it for the cornhole board. All right, so let's move on to the charging cube. So the charging cube dimensions are on this drawing here, and you already created this sketch for the 2 prongs that go into the outlet at a prior time. So let's change the charging cube here. So here we are on the sketch that you created before. If we open sketch 2, you may remember you had set this up so that it was hopefully fully constrained sketch representing the accurate dimensions for the prongs. So now all we need to do is extrude these parts. Now I want to explain the difference. New versus add. Add will add the 2 extrusions that you see here to this existing part. That doesn't really make sense though in this case because this outside part here is a white plastic, as you may know, and then these 2 parts have to be a metal. So they're obviously not the same part. So I'm going to say new instead. And let's go to our worksheet to see how far they are, how far they stick out, and they stick out 0.72. So I'm going to make the depth of the extrusion, which is how far they're coming out, that number. Don't worry that they're different colors. It's just indicating that they're 2 separate parts because they are. They're in fact 2 separate pieces of metal. So that finishes that side off. Now what I'd like to add is the little USB port on this side. So to do that, we're going to have to create an entirely new sketch. So I'm going to select this surface to sketch on and click sketch and hit N to get normal to the surface. And now we're going to just draw a rectangle. So I'm going to click rectangle. And there's our rectangle, but it is completely randomly sized. So we need to go back and get our dimensions. So the dimensions are 0.5 wide and 0.2 tall. Whoops, I started accidentally sketching another rectangle, so I'm going to hit escape. And I'll just dimension these lines instead. Something doesn't seem to be working so well with my computer right now. There we go. And we need to know where this lives on this charging cord or charging cube. So it's 0.6 down from the top. So we'll dimension from the top down to that line. Okay. And you can see this is still not dimensioned this way, and that's because it's not oriented or around the middle of this part. So I'm going to say vertical, and I'm going to pick the midpoint of this plane, this point, if it lets me. Maybe it's not going to let me do the midpoint. So how about instead we do a construction line, and I'll pull the construction line right from the middle of that part, and I'll put it down on there. And that last thing is I said the midpoint, and I picked the point, which was the end point of this construction line, and I said be on the midpoint of this horizontal line. So now you can see everything is fully constrained. And this time, rather than extruding and adding material, we're going to extrude and remove material, which you can see it'll just switch directions and then cut into the material. It automatically knows that we're going to cut since it's going inside the part. And it is showing you on this drawing that it's 0.5 inches in, so I'll change that here. And there we go. If you want to change the colors of anything here, you could say edit appearance, and maybe let's make both of these parts look like they're metal. And then you could also sorry, my escape key doesn't seem to be working. And now if I click this and hit edit appearance, I can change it to a white, and almost white, I guess you could call it that. And that looks about like an Apple charging cube. You can turn off these planes if you don't want to look at those. Another thing to make it look more realistic is you could say shaded without edges. There we go. And you can see that it takes those lines off of wherever the surfaces meet. And let's, while we're at it, turn the origin off. There we go. And now you can turn in this part. For maybe extra credit, you could look at an actual charging cube's prongs here and try to add features and make those prongs look more realistic rather than just being straight up rectangles. All right, that's it for the charging cube.